Hi best Fiends fan, it's Natalia here again from the channel Cookylicious NZ. Today I'm going to show you how to make Bluebell Buggles from the latest update. For this project, what you need is some sugar cookies that have been cut out using a printed template. I will have a link in the description box below for you to create these templates, and all you need to do is print and cut the shape of buggles, then use a sharp knife or an Exacto knife to cut your cookie dough. Just make sure when you cut your template to create enough space for the flowers in his hat and also for his legs. I also cut out a few different sections of buggles to make it easier to decorate, as I will show you later in the tutorial. And I will also be using a Scribe tool, which is a needle tool to smooth out my icing and to help shape the icing around the cookies. Now these are eatable markers. They are food safe markers that is specially created for this kind of project. You'll also need some real icing, and if you're looking for a simple real icing recipe, you'll find it in the description box below. Okay, let's get started with the decorating process. Use an eatable marker to create guidelines in the cookies. Let's start with his hat and draw 2 lines across the hat to create a ribbon. Then followed by the sections in his face. This is where you'll see how to use the pieces of templates that we created earlier. Draw the guidelines for the top of his face, followed by his eye. Then draw his jaw and his mouth, and 2 lines on his tail, followed by a straight line for his wings using a plastic template. And lastly, draw his legs. After we have marked all the guidelines, we can start putting icing on the cookie. Start with piping a brown color icing for the top of his hat and the brim area. And all the icing consistency that I'll be using for this cookie will be a medium consistency icing, except for the black icing that I'll be using for his legs later on. Now, if you wanted to know how to achieve the right medium consistency icing, I'll be putting a link down below for my video tutorial on how to do that. So be sure to check it out. Now let the icing crust over, then use the same brown icing to fill the underside of his hat, and followed by white icing to create the ribbon section on his hat. Use the Scribe tool to push the icing into the corner. Then use a blue icing to fill the alternate spaces on his tail, the tip and the one nearest to the body. This will create dimensions if you let the icing crust over before filling in the middle area. Then use the same blue icing to fill his nose area. Use the Scribe tool to shape the icing if needed. Then continue to fill the jaw area right next to the mouth, and then let the icing crust over. The next step is to fill the little section underneath his hat with the same blue icing, then let that icing crust over again. When that part has crusted over, continue to fill the remaining section of his body and his tail with the same blue icing. Then fill his mouth area with red icing and let the icing dry for a few hours. Now let's move on into his wings. We can fill them with light blue medium consistency icing on all 4 sections of the wings. And while we are waiting for the icing to dry, we can continue with the eyes. Fill both eyes with white medium consistency icing and use a Scribe tool to shape the icing to fill the edges, making sure that they're evenly spread. And while the white icing is still wet, add a black icing on top to create the eyes, and then a drop of white icing. The next step is to create the flowers on his hat. Pipe 3 petals first and then let it crust over. And while we're waiting for that to crust over, let's create the teeth by putting a drop of white icing and use the Scribe tool to shape it into little triangles. The Scribe tool is really useful for this purpose, especially for the little details that might be tricky to create with piping tips. Then let's create the little bluebell on his hat. Start with piping the outer petals first in the U shape and then let the icing crust over. After the icing has crusted, Continue to pipe the rest of the white petals for the daisy. Then add a yellow icing in the middle. Also pipe the middle petal for the bluebells, for both little bluebells on the hat. Use a scribe tool to smooth and shape the icing if needed. And then let the icing crust over again. Pipe green icing to create the stems for the bluebells, as well as the little surrounding leaves for the white flowers. And lastly, pipe black outline consistency icing to create these leaves. So there you have it, super cute Bluebell Buggles. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please leave a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to Best Fiends to see more fun videos like this. If you want to see more decorated cookie videos, please head over to my channel at Cookielicious NZ. So thanks for watching guys, and until next time.